1945 saw the release of Tove Janssons' Moomins, with her first Moomin book, The Moomins and the Great Flood. It introduced the world to her creation, these round, white, hippo-looking, good-natured creatures. She then brought them back the next year with Comet in Moominland. That all said, it wasn't until 1945, with the release of Finn Family Moomin Troll, that the Moomins really took off and become part of popular culture where they still have a footing, albeit a small one, to this day. Jansson's stories told of the adventures of Moomin Troll, his family, and his friends. Along with the Moomins themselves, the valley they lived in was home to many humans, animals, the Groke, and someone that will become very well acquainted with today, Moomin Troll's best friend, Snufkin. They are so beloved to this day that in 2024, Raw Fury released the first of so far 2 Moomin games, Snufkin Melody of Moominvalley, which sees the player controlling Snufkin as he returns to Moominvalley after the winter break to find things have changed for the worst. Welcome in, everyone. I am, as always, Annakuma, and today I have a new look. Yes, my new model is finally done, and look at me, I might be as cute as a Moomin at this point. Maybe. With a new model to debut, I thought it only right to debut kind of a new series on this channel as well. Whilst I still want to go back to doing just normal short reviews on my main channel, I thought I'd take a few of the games I really have enjoyed in modern times and make a modern retrospective on them, which just means longer reviews that let me spoil the game a little more than my actual reviews would. When thinking what game to do first, my lifelong love of Moomins and the release of Moomin Troll Winter's Warmth instantly made me realise I should probably talk about Snufkin. See, I grew up with the Moomins. My mum is a massive fan of the series, and me and my sisters were raised on them. Even now, my house is full of Moomin stuff, because who can love Moomins? Every time I meet anyone from Finland, I ask them for a Moomin, and all of them refuse to give me one. Because Finnish people are mean and hide their Moomins well. I played Snufkin the moment it was released, and let me tell you that Raw Fury did a great job with the story. They brought to life the beauty, simplicity, and calmness of Moomins in a story that was compelling and sweet, but also full of Snufkin being a grumpy old man. He isn't really that old, but he acts it sometimes. So what did they actually do with the material that they had to work with? We start with a beautifully drawn opening scene that shows Snufkin leaving Moominvalley for the winter, explaining to Moomin Troll that he'll be back, but that Moomins hibernate through winter anyway, so he wouldn't have a reason to stay. He'll return in spring like he always does and spend the rest of the year with Moomin Troll. They say their goodbyes on the bridge before we get a montage of just what it is that Snufkin does in the months that he is away. We then make our grand return to Snufkin as he slowly makes his way up Moominvalley to Moomin Troll's house and the bridge that they always usually meet on. As you can imagine, this is just a tutorial area, and I think it is done really well. It has you walking around and exploring a smaller, very linear area, having you do the things you need to do so you learn via doing, but also giving you these nice little pop-up boxes that will explain to you exactly what you are doing. These pop-ups will also pop up when you have quests, and to explain items that you randomly pick up on the map as well. This area will introduce you to climbing, jumping, using your musical instruments, as well as how other characters in the game act around you. It is a nice way to get you ready before being thrown into the main meat of the game. Snufkin is easy to control. I use a controller because it's just simpler that way, but the game also does let you rebind buttons if you want to on the mouse and keyboard, so you can choose what buttons are best for you. He'll react instantly to your movement inputs, which are on the left stick on the controller. He can jump around the place, has a sprint on left trigger, with a stamina bar that both depletes and recovers pretty fast. Plus, you can pick things up with the square button. My buttons won't match with what is on the screen because I'm using the PlayStation controller and it only shows up with Xbox inputs, but you get what I mean. Climbing up sees you running up to a climbable wall, these creeps or stairs, and pressing X. If you have to climb on something, it is pretty obvious. There is no need for yellow paint here, you'll just be able to see visually that it is somewhere that Snufkin will be able to climb. By the middle of this area, you'll have your first instrument, your trusty harmonica. Pressing right trigger will have Snufkin play whichever instrument is equipped, and you can change which one is equipped easily with the triangle button. If you need to use an instrument, it will be in a small circle above whatever it is that you are using the instrument on, whether it be an environmental block or an animal. They will also have an inspiration level. You can get inspiration by running through bushes, using instruments on animals, and doing quests. There isn't really anything that needs a lot of inspiration, but you'll need to get used to running through things just to keep it up so you don't struggle to use instruments when you need them. At this point, you also have this guy tagging along with you. He has no name right now, but he helps with the tutorial by giving it a more personal vibe. Whilst pop-ups and having the button prompts always showing will help you so far, having this guy walk around and explain it to you in-world is a nice little touch. It feels like they have tried to cover as many bases as they can with the learning process, and it just gives the game some character. Here's also a good look at how random conversations will happen all around Snufkin. If you run off, you can miss some dialogue from the people around the world, so you kind of have to stand still when you meet them and read the speech bubbles as they go on, and there is even a nice accessibility option to have these stay up a little longer, so if you need the extra time to read them, they let you have them there for quite some time. Just a warning though, the bubbles stay up for quite a decent amount of time anyway, and never have much to say in them, so I'd say give it a chance without the extra time before turning it on, because it can feel very long if you have it switched on. Whilst in the playthrough I did for the video, I didn't really pay much attention to all of this. For a first playthrough, they do the one thing that I love most in games, and that is make the world feel alive and lived in. These aren't just characters plonked on a map for the sake of having characters to flesh out the world. No, they are living beings going about their day-to-day lives. When you first stumble upon Moominvalley, for example, she's upset that her flowers are all dead. You'll meet these police officers that are just having a little conversation amongst themselves. Moominpapa is wondering what's happened to his stuff. These conversations can hint at plot points or story beats, but regardless of their importance, they flesh out the world and make it an actual world to live in, and not just a gaming environment. They aren't just there to mechanically work in the game, they are there because they belong there. This is their world, this is their home, and we're just visitors in it. Talking of dialogue, Melody of Moominvalley isn't voice acted, but when you have an important conversation, it'll go into this cutscene screen cinematic kind of view, giving you a portrait of the characters in the corner, and really giving you a chance to immerse yourself in a conversation. It lets the emotions on the character's face speak for themselves, and gives it a nice chatty feel to it. This is an extremely story-heavy game. You don't get to make decisions for Snufkin. This is just your chance to play through a Moomin story, one that is inspired by the 1954 story Moomin Summer Madness. This game isn't designed to be difficult. It isn't meant to tax you. It is just meant to immerse you in the world and tell a fun little story based on the stories of Janssons. It is a very chill experience, but with a lot of story, side quests, and just enough mechanical difficulty that it keeps you interested throughout the journey you'll be going on. Also, the game kinda has stealth. Kind of. Snufkin will stumble across this scene where we're introduced to the park keeper. Parks with rules don't sit well with Snufkin, which I can both understand and disagree with. Rules in nature are a good thing to have, and a simple park with some rules doesn't really seem that bad, but instantly Snufkin hates everything and is really ready to commit some very big crimes. You'll destroy this park first. It is a simple one, but it's there to show you what you have to do to destroy the parks. Picking up all these signs with the rules on it, including no noses I guess, will let Snufkin destroy the entire park and allow nature to take its extremely fast course in correcting the wrongs that have happened to it. This is the first park, so it really is very simple, but the final task of the tutorial will show you how they aren't afraid to add new mechanics to the parks. First up though, we still have this guy with no name running around after us. Outside the bigger park, we find this bird who has lost her chicks. They are scattered around this area and force you to engage with all of the skills you've currently been honing in this area. They will all need you to play the harmonica for them to follow you, but there will be one stuck under a log that you need to free, and another on top of a ledge that you need to pick up a rock and use to jump up to free it. With all the chicks back, the mummy bird will be happy and make a tee sound. Our friend likes the sound of it, but refuses it as a name because it sounds too happy, so Snufkin asked if putting a woo on the end, giving it a sad tail, would help the name, and we christen this dude Tee Woo, who then instantly has a crisis about bills and wanders off. We've all been there, Tee Woo. Our bird friend here was sat on a key for the park, but before we enter the park, there is one last feature the game introduces in this area that I loved about the game. Melody of Moominvalley basically has active hotspots always turned on. You'll have a prompt above everything that you can interact with, whether it is a button prompt for an action, or just telling you what instrument you have to play at any given time. At some points though, you'll find small areas out of the way with this eye icon over the top of them. When you find these eye icons, you can interact with them and you will be taken to these wonderfully drawn scenes where the music goes away and you are left admiring the world around you with all the sounds of nature playing back at you. There are a decent amount throughout the game, and it basically boils down to asking you to really embrace the world they've created. Whilst there is an overarching story of leaving nature the way it is, one of the ways they want to show you why you should leave nature the way you find it is by having you live in this beautifully crafted world they've created for you. To stop and look at the sights, to feel in awe when you get the moments like crossing the bridge at night with Little Mai, or when you find any of these spots to just sit and let the experience wash over you. It is moments like this that make you realize how much this game meant to the people that created it. They want us as the players to fall in love with their version of Moominvalley as much as they obviously loved creating it for us. In making you stop what you're doing at any given moment to sit and just take in the vast calmness of the valley, it makes you appreciate the world that Snufkin is trying to save from the park keeper. Not just that, you are more likely then to stop and take in the sights around you on your own after being shown just how calming the world can be to look at. So now you really want to save Moominvalley with Snufkin, right? Which leads us to the bigger of the two stealth sections in the tutorial area. This time, it is covered with police officers either patrolling around or standing guard of certain areas. Their field of vision is laid down for you in this great box at their feet, which fans out in front of them, giving you a great indication of where you can and cannot be standing at any given point in the game. Snufkin himself doesn't have any stealth mechanics. He can jump into certain bushes and some flower beds will give you cover, but it is mainly about timing your movements or using distractions found around the maze to get the police out of the way. I guess at that point he does have stealth mechanics, but you know what I mean. He doesn't actually stealth around the place. You have a sprint, you have a walk, that's about it. Parks are kind of the biggest puzzle type in the game. They evolve throughout the playthrough with some more unique ideas popping up and new ways to distract the police included, but they are never made to be difficult. You have to rip out all of the signs, knock anything you can over, as well as find keys to unlock stuff, but it is all very simple, and you can run away from the police if you are spotted, but if they do catch you, it is as simple as going back to the beginning of that small section and trying again. The checkpoints in the maze-like parks are very generous, and you are never too far back when you're caught anyway. I do find it funny that these guys are so dumb though, that a moving planter can and will distract them, as well as Snufkin being able to get right up in their business sometimes when they are distracted, and they still can't see it. But unlike something like Broken Sword the Angel of Death, yeah, I'm gonna throw shade at that game again, where you expect realism to a point, and this game is just silly fun that you can laugh about, and the police are never portrayed as being intelligent beings either. With this park destroyed though, it is time for Snufkin to enter Moominvalley proper and get the main game started up. Moominvalley is a decently sized area. It has places locked off to you for now, using environmental obstacles that you'll either need more inspiration or different instruments to open, but this is just to streamline your experience into the more linear main story they have going on. It does open up, and you do get to explore to your heart's content later, but right now it has a story to tell, and it will make sure you are going in the right direction. We also get this wonderful map of Moominvalley. Whilst this main hub area is the place you'll spend a lot of time, there are other places that you will go into, which act like their own little instances, the first of which is coming up very soon. But it is a wonderful look at the valley and the very Moomin-esque art style that the game really tried to replicate. It is by far one of my favourite maps in gaming, and wonderfully indicates both where you are and active quests as well later on in the game, so if you do get lost you can pop up the map and have a look at where you might need to be going. You also have the quests in the option menu as well if you ever need reminding of what it is you are meant to be doing at any given point. Moomin Mama will be the first Moomin you stumble upon when in the main game. She's upset that her flowers are dead, as I've said before, and you'll see that yes indeed, the ground around the Moomin house looks like it's been suffering. Behind her is Moomin Papa with his own set of problems. First up, his masterpiece is blown away because someone had left the window open, and then he also has lost his bow. All very terrible things. When it comes to Moomin Papa's play, this will come up later in the game. Pages have been scattered across the valley, and you will find them just by exploring the areas around you thoroughly. Very often, they are just a little out of the way, meaning that you do have to go on a little adventure or maybe solve a small amount of puzzles to be able to grab them, but they are mostly easy to find and in extremely easy to spot areas. Both Moomin Mama and Moomin Papa will tell you that Moomin Troll has already woken up and gone out, so to go check the bridge for him, where you usually find your friend. Snufkin will hurry over to the bridge just to find this. The water is gone and there is no Moomin troll to be seen, a devastating sight for Snufkin. Little Mai, this mischievous little girl that lives within the valley as well, is our first port of call to give us the main thread of the game. As much as the destroying of the parks is important to the gameplay, the actual story of the game is purely Snufkin trying to find Moomin Troll and burning down everything around him till he has his best friend back. That being said, you should never take what Little Mai says with much seriousness, which I'm sure Snufkin deep down knows, but when she tells the story of seeing the Groke, this big scary creature, approaching the Moomin house and kidnapping Moomin Troll, Snufkin decides to take it very seriously and follows the cold trail the Groke left behind in its wake to find his dear friend and save him for whatever it is that is happening to him. Following this trail will lead you to your first instanced area. From time to time, the game will send you to a new part of the map with a very specific story and a goal in mind. You don't really get to super explore some of these areas, and it is more about traversing them and getting to the bottom of whatever story is being told. This time out, it's the chase sequence with the Groke. I guess it's to get you used to the terrain that can be difficult to cross, like the mud, and to learn to use your sprint when you can, but to also be mindful of your stamina. As we go along, we'll have the Groke following close behind. You can get a decent amount away from her, but she'll always find a way to catch up with you in the end. She isn't really rubber banded, it is just at certain points the chase starts up in the story, regardless of how far away you were to begin with. At one point, you'll find a very perfectly laid splat of a Moomin Troll in some mud. Snufkin will remark about how clumsy his friend is before continuing. It is a nice visual indicator that you are indeed on the right path and Moomin Troll has been this way, but Snufkin doesn't seem that worried about him. You'll continue on till you reach a dead end, just when you think the worst is about to happen, which I'm not sure what Snufkin thinks the Groke is going to do to him. You'll be saved by a wise old hedgehog. This hedgehog will tell you that the Groke is harmless and is actually just attracted to the light around your lantern. He will also tell us that Little Mai got the wrong end of the stick and that the Groke went and woke up Moomin Troll to get his help with the park herself, and that Moomin Troll arrived here on his own free will. Again, why we listen to Little Mai I don't know. She was half right, I guess, at least this time. We'll also find out later from these two police officers hanging out that Moomin Troll headed to the Hattie Fattener's Island to confront the park keeper, who is currently on that island instead, which explains where Moomin Papa's boat went and gives us our next destination. Before then though, we have to deal with fire. Again, the game is a good warning about how to treat nature and how not to treat nature, but it isn't so in your face that it comes over as preachy. In this instance, these two idiot police officers think they have created a controlled fire in a very dry area. Snufkin warns them that this is a bad idea, but they ignore him and the fire spreads. Again, just as you think Snufkin is trapped, the Groke will appear and their icy cold body can put out the fires. So you direct the Groke around the map, having her put out the fires and become the savior of her own little patch of Moominvalley. It really is a very beautiful moment after seeing all the creatures scared of the Groke at the beginning of this instance suddenly come to terms with the Groke being one of them and heralding her as the savior of their home. The light starts to shine on the Groke, and you see her finally surrounded by friends, being accepted for who she is. Everyone being brought together by their love for their home. A reminder not to judge anything by the way they look, and that everyone potentially just needs some love and can be brought together in the toughest of times. As I said though, we have a new destination, and we'll head to the beach now to find Moomin Papa's boat is indeed gone, but Tiki is also here and can help. Before you head to the beach though, it is worth doing a bit of an explore. The hedgehog will give you a flute, meaning you now have 2 of 3 instruments, and some more of Moominvalley will be open to you. This will open some side quests that you can pick up and start working out, including Old Muskrat here. He has a pot of food, but he's grumpy and doesn't actually have the food for it, so we'll send you out to find mushrooms. Doing his side quest will increase your stamina up to 3 times, and it's kind of worth just looking around and picking random things up, because you can find yourself just doing all 3 stews in one go, and having a massive stamina bar to go on with. That being said, I'm not sure if you can find them all before you have the final instrument, but honestly, the sprint isn't that much faster than Snufkin's walk, and you can easily manage going between the sprint and the walk anyway, so it's up to you how you go about Muskrat's story and any of the side quests in this game. A little note that I forgot to add as well, so I'm just ad-libbing this in here, which is why it's going to be awkward, is that when you're sprinting, they have this little sweat thing coming out of Snufkin. Sweat thing is an animation to show that he's getting tired. I quite like it. It was cute. I keep forgetting to mention it, so now I've mentioned it. Meeting Tiki at the beach will give Snufkin your next big quest objectives. Tiki will make us a raft to go after Moomin Troll, but they need the materials to do so, and it is up to Snufkin to go find them, even though I'm pretty sure that Snufkin could make a raft on his own anyway if he wanted to. So, if you didn't explore before you met Tiki, this is another perfect time to embrace Moominvalley in its whole, and have a decent wander around to find out the secrets that lie within. Like Ninny here, this naked invisible girl on the beach. Her clothes have been stolen by Stinky, but at first she's angry, thinking that it could have been you that stole them. You calm her down by chasing her and playing your harmonica, and you have yet another side quest to think about. This is also kind of a weird quest, but she is invisible, so it's not that weird maybe, I don't know. We'll focus on the main tasks though, and first up on this playthrough I found this ghost. This ghost is small and doesn't scare Snufkin, so we promised to help find people to scare it. Or for it to scare, I guess. This is the most unique of the gardens because instead of destroying rules and the like, you're just having the police officers chase you to the ghost and scaring them away. I really love the difference in this park mechanics, and it was just overall very fun to do, and gets you again used to the running mechanics of the game, really hitting home that you can actually avoid being caught if you are fast enough and smart enough. After helping the ghost get big, she'll give you her spare sheet, which you can then use as a cell. The only other really hands-on item to get is the stick from Snork. Snork is out here experimenting with sticks, and whilst we're surrounded by trees, this is the only stick that Snufkin will take for his raft. We need to find a smaller stick to raise Snork's bigger stick down the river, whilst moving these fish with our music to sabotage Snork's stick. I mean, mainly you're meant to be just moving the fish out of the way of your stick, but where is the fun if you aren't sabotaging someone else's fun too? And do you really trust the river to let us win? We need to win, so, you know, sabotage the stick. After you beat him, whether you do it fairly or not, he'll give you the stick, and then you have two much easier items to grab. First up, if you head back to Moomin Papa, he'll want some help sawing up his firewood. This is a wonderful moment of pure calmness as you help him with a very easy task. It might seem mundane compared to what the ghost and Snork had you do, but it really lets you just take in the world around you as you help with the chore in front of you. I like the much more calm approach to this moment, and it really helps break up the gameplay. He'll give you some wood when you've finished, so you finally have to go and find this guy here. He has a rope tied around his neck, and it is as simple as playing him a little tune and removing the rope from his neck. Again, there isn't much to it, but it keeps the pacing of the game going steady, as well as kind of building up some character to the world around you. Not everything has to be a puzzle, sometimes Snufkin just has to be kind and help the people around him to get what he needs. Before heading back to Tiki, we have another instance we can do right now. On the bottom beach area, you'll find Sniff, this kangaroo-looking guy. He's being terrorized by crabs in the entrance to a cave. His friend Cedric is lost within the cave system, and Sniff is too much of a wimp to go save him. The caves are their own little thing in the game. They aren't anything special, but they are just fun to run around and find all the nooks and crannies that things like inspiration and Moomin Papa's papers can be hidden in. They are a decent break from everything else and often just make you really work on the movement abilities you've been given, whether it's picking up rocks and making paths or jumping from ledge to ledge. This one will see you doing your best to calm down the crabs until you and Sniff find Cedric. Just as soon as you find him, you also find some treasure, and Sniff abandons Cedric once more for the treasure before a giant crab comes and steals Cedric again, and Snufkin needs to put the crab to sleep to save Cedric once more. Sniff only just learning his lesson and leaving the cave with Cedric after the crab had fallen asleep. Not before he tried to take the treasure again, though. Oh, and Cedric is a plush dog toy, just so you know. Yeah, we did all this to save a cuddly toy, but at least Sniff is happy. Kind of. I still think he'd have preferred the treasure. He'll give you a Hemlin toy, which will be useful later for another quest. All of the side characters in this game really make it something special. Again, it is about making the world feel lived in. These are the inhabitants of Moominvalley. Their life is going on regardless of what is happening with Moomin Troll and the Park Keeper. They have wants and needs, and Snufkin is happy enough to help to a point. This is just how the valley is, how the inhabitants of the valley are, and Snufkin loves the valley as much for the people as he does the peace and quiet he gets from it. Back with Tiki though, and she'll create the boat for us. Little Mai is determined we're on a treasure hunt, and would demand to come with us, but we refuse her company and set sail. Yeah, Little Mai somehow hid in our bag and is coming too, just for us to be shipwrecked or I guess raft wrecked on the island. Little Mai will spend most of her time running off ahead to find treasure. That's all she cares about, though she does also at times show some concern for Moomintroll. She might be a brat, but she does love her found family in the valley too. Mainly, I think she just likes being included in things. Hatty Fatness, by the way, are these little white creatures that you'll suddenly meet as you walk around the island. They don't talk to you and won't get in your way, but there are a lot of them, hence the island being named after them. This whole island is a little on the dark side, so you'll have your lantern lit throughout the area, which gives off this beautiful glow around Snufkin. You have already seen it in the Grok level in the cave with Sniff, but I genuinely love the cozy vibes the light brings. No matter how dark it gets around you, Snufkin will always have the warm glow of friendship around him. You'll come across some pirates looking for treasure, and they'll also help you out with some of the puzzles, or I guess they'll tell you what you have to do, because mainly this island is the hardest of the movement puzzles you'll come across. It isn't just about jumping around and exploring now. No, sometimes to get to where you need to go at this point, you'll need to sort out a puzzle, like how to get these barrels down to cross the river, or just using animals in general as stepping stones. You get a lot of variety in the area, which I really like, and makes Hatty Fatness stand out of all the instance areas as the most interesting to do, as it really tests you on how you really traverse the world around you. Halfway through, you'll meet one of the Hamlins. He will tell you that the park keeper has created a park here on the island as well, and stolen the Hatty Fatness barometer, their holy relic. He'll also tell you that Moomintroll was here and went to help the Hatty Fatness, but hasn't returned yet, which is all Snufkin needs to hear to head off into the park and try to find Moomintroll himself. Again, you'll be pulling up signs and destroying the world around you, trying to find the key to get to the barometer. Once more, the puzzles and stealth sections here are just a little more difficult than they were before, and Snufkin gets upset to find that they have decided to cage up animals in this area as well, especially this guy here. He will then find the barometer and also find the signs of a scuffle. With the park destroyed, the Hamlin will hand you a drum, the final instrument you need, and you'll be able to continue your way through the island just to have this scene play out. Yes, the park keeper has arrested Moomintroll and has him on his boat heading back to Moominvalley. Just we have no way to get back ourselves, as our raft got destroyed and Moomin Papa's boat does not have a sail. Little Mai is still trying her best to find treasure, and she points out that the pirate ship that you would have seen earlier looking through this is still here on the island with a sail. We could use it to get home, just she wants help finding the treasure first, so off you set on the second half of the adventure on Hatty Fatness Island. Also, this moment here is one of my favorites, to the point I have a screenshot of it as my computer background, because it just makes me feel calm when I look at it. This game really does it best to make you feel very cozy at all times. As soon as you enter the cave, marking the end of this section, Little Mai will run off to find treasure and get herself lost. We think we're gonna help her, and have to traverse the cave on our own, only a little worried about Little Mai and how we're gonna help her, mainly just trying to get out of it. I do like that the addition of the drum gives you the ability to have rocks fall and open up new paths for you, but all in all, the cave is the same as any other cave area you'll play in the game. Just when we get to the end of the puzzle, we suddenly have nowhere left to go and have to be saved by Little Mai. What a twist of fate. She's only a little smug and she gets her reward not long after, a treasure chest. Just it is empty, and the park keeper has already taken whatever was in it, so this leaves Little Mai angry and upset, meaning all we have left to do is find the ship, take the sail, and head back to Moominvalley ourselves. That being said, on your way back, you'll find this horse. They think that they're the most beautiful creature in the world, and task you with proving them wrong. To get used to using the drum, which is basically just the same as any other instrument, you can run around and find this mirror to give her, which just kind of proves her point, I guess. A simple enough side quest that adds nothing to the story other than again opening the world up to the weird and wonderful lives that live here. Not everything needs to help Snufkin or be part of the main story. Sometimes it just has to be a reminder that the world is vast and full of life that continues no matter how many Moomins get arrested for crimes against park keepers, I guess. You'll have this wonderful little cutscene coming back to the island with Little Mai as a pirate, before landing and heading out to find a park keeper once and for all. This is actually a great time to explore the island. Now that you have all three instruments, you can honestly do all the side quests and hunt for Moomin Papa's pages before heading to the park keeper. You can finally go and find Stinky, who you have to chase around to get Nini's clothes back. Another Hamlin is hanging around, wanting you to go find butterflies for him, which you can run around the flower garden and then lure back the butterflies using your harmonica. I don't get why Snufkin doesn't like things caged up, but he's happy to have butterflies bottled up. It's a weird moment in the game. Snufkin doesn't always make sense. Snork Maiden here has had her anklet stolen, so you can find the bird that stole it and steal it back for her, and Little Maya is in a well. Don't ask. She wants the Hamlin toy you got from Sniff, and when you give it to her, you can then just throw her back down the well. Can't say she doesn't deserve it. Your maximum level for inspiration is level 8, but I don't think there is anything above maybe a 3 or 4. But with the drum, you can break down dandelions and these plants, whatever they might be, and gain a bunch of inspiration, as well as being able to grab hidden items from them. Playing instruments for birds scattered around, as well as taking bees back to their hives and stopping angrier bees from attacking you, will also give you inspiration. Oh, and so do the side quests. All in all, you can just spend some time just relaxing in the open world and having an adventure of your own. Finding all the hidden areas, making the wildlife come to life, and watching the other inhabitants of Moominvalley live their lives is well worth the diversion from the main story. When you've had your fix, though, you can head over to the parkkeeper's house, where these two officers won't let you into the bottom area of the garden. But you can break in through this fence and find out that everyone is already here protesting Moomin Troll's innocence, but the parkkeeper is holding steady on keeping him in prison. Snufkin will do his best to threaten the parkkeeper before talking to the parkkeeper's cousin and finding out that he actually will leave his house for a theatre show, so everyone has the same plan and rushes back to the open-air theatre right next door. I do love this moment that everyone tries to give Moomin Papa the win here, when the plan is very obvious. We'll be putting on a play to distract the parkkeeper, who'll need to be distracted long enough for Snufkin to organize a prison break for Moomin Troll. This gives us our last set of quests, and again they range from very easy to very long-winded. First up, if you have been keeping an eye out for Moomin Papa's play, you might already have all the pages to give him. If not, you'll have to explore the map till you find them. It's gonna be Moomin Papa's masterpiece that we used to lure the parkkeeper out. Next up is the easiest of the tasks if you haven't already got all the papers for Moomin Papa. That is to help the band. There are 3 of them, 1 for each instrument, and you just play your instrument to get them in tune again. They'll then play you this little song. The next 2 quests are a little longer. The easier of the 2 would be just running around the map and giving out invitations. You are having a race with Little Mai, but it isn't really a race. You'll both return at the same time and both get praised for doing a good job. You won't have to give invitations out to everyone because obviously Little Mai has half of them, but it will make you run around the map one final time. With the invitations sent out to everyone in Moominvalley, the last ones you want to give out will be the parkkeeper himself and the police officers barring your way to the park down here. They will then leave, giving you access to this garden. Again, this one is a little more difficult than the ones before it, and will let you use the drum to distract the police patrolling around and guarding the area as well. The changes in mechanics in each and every park is really well done and keeps them fresh and fun to do. Nothing ever feels samey, even though the main mechanics really are just the same. The parks are one thing that could feel like they outstayed their welcome, but they are placed well enough throughout the game with enough differences in them that I feel they work really well. This opens your way to Footy Jonk. Footy Jonk has the clothes for the theatre, but getting to her isn't super easy. Okay, it is super easy, nothing in this game is hard at all, but it is slowed down by it being swarmed by woodies. Woodies are these tiny little creatures that are very childlike, maybe because they are children, and you won't be able to climb anything away from them until you distract them. There are various ways to distract them, including making dust clouds and getting birds to sing at them, but the one I'm very curious about was just blocking their path with this boulder. In fact, Snufkin only comes and lets them out because he needs their help. Does this mean he would happily have left them to die here? What happened to not looking up creatures, Snufkin? This is cold, very cold, Snufkin, extremely cold. You'll finally make it to Footy Jonk's house though, and this is where we get the old-fashioned Rabbit and Winnie the Pooh dynamic. Footy Jonk is a bit stuck up, and she refuses to leave the house because the outside world is too much for them. Something I, as an agoraphobic bear, can understand. Her kids are outside doing their own thing, but she refuses to talk to us. So what does Snufkin do? Sit and talk to her? Just ask her what he needs to ask? Find a way to remove the woodies that are really upsetting her? No. He becomes a garden terrorist, much like Winnie the Pooh does. He leaves muddy handprints all over her clean washing, destroys her flower beds, and knocks over her plant pots. Finally, her kids will join the Woodies, and she's forced to come outside and both agree that it is sometimes okay for her kids to have fun, whilst agreeing to talk to Snufkin. Why violence is always the answer, I don't know, but whenever there is a rabbit-type character in any story, they always end up being bullied into conforming to what the main character thinks they should be doing, which is usually having fun in a childish way, instead of doing whatever adult thing they are currently doing in their life. Though I guess Philly Junk was just scared of the outside. I feel for her though, I am also afraid of the outside. She will give us the theatre outfits because the play is for the park keeper, and will agree to come because the park keeper is there too. Obviously, someone who has a lovely garden like she used to have would respect what the park keeper was trying to do in the world. With all this done, you can now leave Philly Junk to look after the Woodies and go back to Moomin Papa to finally get this play on the road. Just, we won't be able to see it, obviously. This is all a ploy to get the park keeper out of his house so that Snufkin can sneak in and get the key to the cage of Moomintroll's prison cell. Just for some reason, there is a lot of banging in this house. I just think Snufkin likes being a bit of a dick, honestly. There was no need for whatever ruckus he was making in there to be a thing, but he did it anyway. With the key in hand, we can finally save Moomintroll and reunite with our best friend. Now this is where the game will warn you about entering the end game. If there is any more exploring you want to do now with the world wide open for you, then it is time to go do that. If not, then you can carry on with Moomintroll. But also something I haven't mentioned is that if you have a pop-up at the bottom of the screen like this, it's usually a quest starting or ending that pops up like this. Any cutscene about to happen will be paused till that pop-up box is gone, meaning you can't just run off or be like out of place for cutscenes, especially if you've seen it all before and just kind of want to be getting on with things and forget there's a cutscene coming. It isn't a bad thing, but it does give some weird moments where you wandered off and a character suddenly pulls you back into a cutscene. I like it. I did it a lot in this playthrough. I don't think I did it a lot in any other ones, but this one especially I did because I just wanted footage for this video. It was funny. If you are ready to leave though, you and Moomin will break into the final park. Just when you fall to the ground on the other side, you hurt your leg, meaning that Moomin will now have to Samwise Gamgee you to the dam, for we need to give Moominvalley back its water, of course. While Snufkin was angry at the parks, his whole thing was purely to find Moomin. Moomin's whole thing is to make sure that his home is okay, and that means giving back the river so that the world doesn't just dry up, like Moomin Mama's flowers have. Very obviously, this is the most difficult puzzle so far. There are a lot more police standing guard, lots more patrols, and we have the new mechanic of thunder and lightning. When the lightning goes off, it will startle the police, giving you a chance to run through their lines of sight to safety. I got caught a lot in this area on this playthrough because I was just trying to speed through it. But as always, going slower tends to be the faster route just because you don't get caught and sent back every few minutes. When you get through the crazy amount of police officers here that you need to sneak past with no sprint because you are now Moomin with a Snufkin on your back, you get to the dam and together the two friends will give water back to Moominvalley. We'll then cut to the park keeper who's having his mind blown by the melody of Moominvalley play that Moomin Papa is putting on. With the water coming to destroy everything, Moomintroll and Snufkin will return and have their final confrontation with the park keeper. Whilst he seems to have learnt his lesson, Snufkin over here wants to throw him out of the Moominvalley for good, and it comes down to the kind-hearted Moomintroll to point out that actually, he was just trying to help in his own way, and whilst he was misguided, it isn't enough to excommunicate him from his actual home, so instead asks if he'd like to be the keeper of the theatre instead, an idea that makes the keeper very happy. We then go to Snufkin and Moomintroll on the bridge, looking forward to a summer full of adventures. The end. Roll credits. Just that isn't actually it. In fact, in December of 2024, Raw Fury brought out a short DLC called Fudless Courtship, based on the comic strip of the same name. Fuddler's Courtship was actually the final comic that Janssen herself wrote before giving it over to her brother Lars, and Fuddler himself is also a character who has only ever shown up in the comic strips. Until this DLC, he had never been adapted outside of them, even though he is often used in merchandise. I'll keep this short because the DLC itself is very short. It isn't a puzzle game like the main game and is much more heavy with the exploration and storytelling. Snufkin and Moomintroll are on their last big adventure before Snufkin leaves for the winter. They wanted to go camping alone, but people overheard their plans and decided to join them, much to Snufkin's displeasure. We'll be sent out to scout for root vegetables, mushrooms, and some firewood for the extra people joining us, and on our way, we'll find these buttons scattered around. There are some small puzzles on how to get up to ledges with things you need, and so on and so forth, but mainly you are just walking around a very small area trying to find what needs to be found to feed everyone. You'll then find the source of the buttons. Fuddler down here is leaving them out and about, hoping to make friends, and after befriending both Snufkin and Moomintroll, we'll invite him to dinner too. At dinner, he'll tell everyone that he's actually fallen in love, but he's too scared to approach the girl he's in love with, so the next day, everyone decides to join him and help. We find out the girl is actually Little Mai's older sister, Myball, who herself is in love with Sebastian, who she has a cutout of and is flirting with. She'll reject Fuddler, but we'll come up with a plan to make a picnic for her, to change her mind, just we aren't really sure what to do, so make this list of really weird things that Snufkin has to now go and find, because apparently the Fuddler's not gonna go and find this for the girl he's in love with, Snufkin's gonna do it. It will all work out, I'm sure. Little Mai tells us to get a frog, so we do, having to chase it and play music to calm it down before we can catch it. We'll also think of getting her favourite jam, which means using this bird to knock down the jars that Little Mai has put out of reach so that we can then pick them up. I mean, whose side are you on, Little Mai? You're meant to be helping. You'll also have to search for both roses and truffles. Sniff will get himself stuck looking for truffles, so you'll have to use these boards to get around the map and help him out of his pickle. The jam can't be made without apples, so you use your drum to knock the apples out of the tree with just the sound of your drums, I guess. Then there is the pretty rock. We overhear Myball telling Sebastian she'd be his for a pretty rock. As an adult, we know this means a diamond ring, but because these guys are very simple creatures, they think she just wants a pretty rock, and we find Jumble down here, who has a collection of very pretty rocks and gives us her favourite. Yeah, the moment you meet this little dumpy girl, you kind of know how the story will play out. The picnic goes badly because Fuddler doesn't really know how to treat a girl anyway. It didn't seem to be going bad until he started throwing things in her face, but Myball walks off and leaves the Fuddler depressed, while Snufkin goes to find the rock that Myball had yeeted away in anger. When you find it, you can take Fuddler and the rock to Jumble, where she tells us that her house is making weird noises, and Fuddler woos her in the only way men can now woo women these days, by picking up her house and letting all the creeps out. Yeah, that's the thing. She'll exclaim how strong he is before we all decide to move our house next to Fuddler's, just in case the creeps come back. At this point, the two of them are basically a married couple, and we invite them to dinner because that's just how life goes. There are a set number of buttons to collect on the map, so before you finish up, you can go find them. But all that really happens is that you give them to Jumble in the final moments of the campsite, before heading up to see the fireflies with Moomintroll. Snufkin announces that this is the last night he'll be in Moominvalley, before leaving for the winter, and Moomintroll asks if he'll say a proper goodbye tomorrow. We then cut to the next morning where everyone is enjoying a meal together, and Snufkin watches on before leaving a letter for Moomintroll and leaving for the winter. The actual end. We're done. The DLC doesn't take longer than about an hour to complete. There are no real puzzles to it other than a few movement ones, and it is a very small map compared to anything else you'd have seen before. There isn't even really any need for inspiration, so they took that away from the game as well, and it's just focused on retelling the story of Fuddler, which honestly was a good choice. It is short and sweet and doesn't add or detract anything from the main game. It is just there as a nice little extra if you so wish to enjoy it. But that is the end of everything Snufkin Melody of Moominvalley has to offer. Overall, the heart and soul of this game is the story and the art. It is a very loving adaptation of Janssons' work, bringing the characters and valleys she created to life in a way that people can actually finally take it in and enjoy it like they are really there. It immerses you from the beginning to the end of the game, making you really be part of the adventures of Snufkin as he goes about trying to save his friend from the evils of the park keeper. Every area you go to is bright and colorful, even if the colors are a lovely muted color. The feeling of spring is in every flower or bush you run past. The animations are kind of cute on everything that will move, and it has this kind of paper cutout feel to it, which I really like. One decision that they made was, instead of having everything that can follow Snufkin having a climbing animation, they have it so when you climb up somewhere, then you get a decent amount away from the climbing area. They will then run to catch up with you. This stopped teleporting characters from happening and giving the game a more lived-in feeling. Like, the characters just needed some time to do the things that come naturally to Snufkin, but they will indeed catch up to him at their own pace. Things like this just show the amount of love and care that went into the game. They didn't just want to give you a fun puzzle game to get into, they wanted to give you a world full of real people and creatures that cared about the land that you were trying to save. They might not know what is happening or have the urgency to stop it, but they are living their lives and gave us as a player more reason to help Snufkin other than just to save Moomintroll. I love the amount of expression they put on the portraits of the characters, and it was worth having the pop-up scenes when important moments were happening over just having everything in speech bubbles all the time. It really gave us a good look at just how everyone was feeling at any given moment. The music to the game really worked as well. It was relaxing and calm, but changed enough during dramatic and tense moments that it gave the right atmosphere whenever it was needed. It was just a small change to the soundtrack, but it was a great change. Snufkin wasn't a difficult character to enjoy being around. His reaction to people around him was understandable, and his single-mindedness to find his best friend was admirable. He very often wouldn't leave someone needing help alone, but he had his moments where you had to question what he was thinking. I love how angry he just always seemed to be, and even though he had moments where he really wanted his peace, he would never turn down a friend when they offered him help. Well, he did turn down Little Mai once, but she did end up just following us anyway. He was also very easy to interact with. The game was made to be simple and fun, so every interactable object has a pop-up reminding you of the button to press, and even the jumps will let you know when and where you can jump and exactly where you'd be jumping to afterwards. Whilst the game is a short experience, it is very much an experience worth having, and one that I can recommend to everyone. Whilst it might not challenge you, it wasn't meant to be a challenge to your gaming abilities, but your ability to care and get tangled up in a world that is not your own. It wants you to appreciate the quiet moments as well as the fast-paced ones, and see the world through the eyes of someone like Snufkin, who loves silence and peace of mind over everything else. The challenge is to become one with this world and the characters and care enough to save their home, which I have now done countless times because I love this game so much. At some point, I will also be reviewing Moomintroll Winter's Warmth, their very new game that came out in April of 2026, but till then, that is all I have for today. Thank you as always for watching. If you would like to support me even more, then please find links to all my socials, my Twitch and my Patreon all in the description below. Also, thank you for being here for my YouTube model debut too. You'll be able to see much more of this model over on my Twitch channel, so if you like it, then drop me a follow over there. Till next time though, thank you as always for watching, and bye bye.